Hi guys, my name's Emma and let's talk spooky stuff. We are living in the digital age where content is plentiful and our watch lists are overflowing. I know mine is over 100. It can be overwhelming with thousands of hours of content at our fingertips at all time. So what should you watch next? And then came along Apple TV Plus, and it was going to take a pretty riveting TV show to get me to sign on to yet another streaming network. But as soon as I saw the teaser for Servant, I was hooked. Servant is a drama horror thriller TV series, and the first season has currently wrapped with 10 episodes at approximately 30 minutes each. So that's about 5 hours of content, and all up, it really does feel like a slow burn horror film filled with tragedy and pure dread. This TV show is raw, and when I say raw, I mean raw. It touches on some real dark and devastating aspects that real life parents have to deal with. This is a really dark TV show, so if you are affected by anything I just mentioned, grieving, loss as a parent, I really would urge you not to watch any further and probably steer away from the TV show. The TV show got its hype from the producer credit of M. Night Shyamalan, who is obviously known for his cruel and clever twists. Some people hate him and some people love him. I personally am a big fan. But M. Night wasn't only the executive producer for the series, he also directed 2 of the episodes. The rest of the episodes were split between 5 other directors, and the TV show was written and created by Tony Bascalop. The TV show stars Lauren Ambrose, who I love, being a huge fan of 6 Feet Under, Tony Keeble, Neil Tiger Free, and Rupert Grint, who I'm sure you all know. As you guys know, I like to keep things pretty spoiler free here because I like to encourage you to watch the TV show or film, whatever I'm talking about, without impacting your viewing. So I'm gonna put on my vague hat, even more so because M. Night is involved. The TV show is about a grieving family who have just suffered the loss of their child. The mother is in denial, and it's obvious that the couple's relationship has been impacted greatly because of the circumstances. But a tragic situation soon turns toxic when a woman comes to stay with the couple to look after their reborn doll son. If you're not aware of what a reborn doll is, it's a doll that has been transformed by an artist to resemble a human infant with as much realism as possible. Many people who have lost a child use these dolls to cope with their grief. So when this mysterious woman comes to live with the family, things get a little bit strange when she starts to treat the doll as a real life baby, even when people aren't around. This show is really interesting the way it's paced. Just when you think you know what's happening, everything changes at the end of an episode and you're left with another puzzle piece that leaves you once again feeling confused and uncomfortable. The whole series does really well to portray a family's heartbreak while keeping you on your toes. And the best part about the series is its manipulation. You have no idea why you're on the edge of your seat, but you know something is not right. This whole series feels like it's covered in a blanket of unsettling and eerie feelings, and you don't know why or who is the cause of it. Part of the discomfort comes in form of lock-in horror, but in this one, the door is wide open. The TV show almost exists entirely within one set, their house, and you remain in the house day and night, while people enter and exit, stirring and plotting. You feel stuck, trapped, but at the same time, it's as if you are a fly on the wall watching all the darkness pour out. This TV show was highly addictive but made me feel very uncomfortable. At parts, I was physically squirming while watching it. It really achieves the exact vibe that the opening title set up, and it wasn't just the script that contributed towards this. From the first episode, the minimalist, soft, cool tone simulates how fragile and vulnerable the family has become. That was perhaps the most pretentious thing I've ever said, but it's very true. The TV show uses really soft lighting and shallow depth of field, and I read into this that the family only sees what's right in front of them and not the whole picture, much like how majority of the time the TV show stays in the house. There are really uncomfortable close-ups of the characters as we get to know them. These feel really raw and confronting, as if you have no personal space. Although this heavy stylization is more apparent in the first and second episode, I felt though it mimicked the darker parts of the show that come into play later, like a foreshadowing, letting the audience know that this is not going to be easy and you're about to feel really uncomfortable. But as mentioned, you also feel like a complete fly in the wall, with the camera being positioned like it was in hiding, recording from a bench or from a corner of the room. The music for the TV show adds another layer of creepiness. It is super eerie. There is complete silence in some parts, which again feels very raw and confronting for what they're going through. It doesn't feel like it's dramatized as you're watching. But then there's also this creepy nursery rhyme song that gets played throughout that is creepy, but it's also quite soft. And I almost didn't notice it at first, and I like that because it felt like it wasn't overpowering the TV show. And I think that's really important to this story because it is quite a realistic story in a way. I'm trying not to give it away, but I felt like the sound design was spot on and very uncomfortable. I really love the way the characters were written in this film, and I'm so happy the way they cast them. I think it was the perfect marriage. We follow most of the story through Sean's eyes as the father-husband played by Toby Kebbell. Sean's frustration is translated well, and his character is very realistic because he is entirely flawed. As I mentioned, this is something I really enjoyed about the show because we all have dark moments, and that's what makes us human. Neil Tiger-Free plays the sinister nanny, Leanne, who is the main focus of the show, and her portrayal is very strong while not overpowering. I find in a lot of these horror TV shows, movies, when there is a creepy character, mysterious character comes in, they can overplay the creepiness. Some TV shows and movies have done it just right, but I felt like it was just enough where you knew something was off, but you weren't quite sure. And again, it just keeps you on your toes. And I think that Tiger-Free did an amazing job of this. She kept us just where she wanted us, in the unknown, which is quite scary. But the standout for this series has to be Dorothy, played by Lauren Ambrose. Dorothy is a news presenter, and her ability to cover a story while being completely out of touch with her own reality is frightening. Overall, I think Servant is for people who really want to challenge themselves. I did warn you, this is a really dark TV show, and it's quite realistic, and the deeper you go, the darker it gets, because the reality is worse than you expected. I also want to warn you that this show isn't for people who like things wrapped in a nice neat box with a bow on top. It's not given to you that easily, and it also skips over major parts of the story because most of it takes place inside the house. You don't see how some things play out, and these things are later explained in like 1 or 2 sentences. So I felt it was kind of weird that they skipped over some events, but I can see why, because they wanted to keep you inside the house. The show is also left quite open. They give you just enough, but they also leave you anticipating season 2, which will hopefully come out at the end of this year. If you're into creepy, dark slow burns with serious shocks, then Servant is for you. But I do want to warn you, I was squirming the whole time, and it does get extremely dark. I'm going to rate this one an 8 out of 10. I just love the way it was shot and all of the characters. I thought it was really well thought out, and when you reflect on it, you realize how many little aspects you kind of missed. Just watching it as someone who was just shocked by the storyline, you can watch it on a surface level or pretty deep, and I think that's always a good thing in any form of art. Let me know what you guys thought. Have you watched Servant? Let me know what you think down below. Try and keep it spoiler free, but if you want to put spoilers in your comment, just say spoiler so no one reads them. Anyway, I love you guys so much. If you want to check out my latest video, I have a knockout horror comedy that you can watch right now. Check that out. Also, I have 2 cool videos coming up, which is going to be my top favorites of 2000 through to 2009 horror movies, just as before. And as promised, I will be doing a video on films that changed me, mainly focusing on horror thrillers. I love you guys so much, and subscribe if you haven't, and I'll talk to you guys very soon. Stay spooky. Bye.